All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So we're going to look at three today. I want to look at open one more time, look at that candle, look at that volume. A lot going on, especially after that horrible earnings gap down that dropped. You can see it up there, 24% down from earnings. All of a sudden, we're finally breaking this line, right? So a lot going on, a lot to like, and I mean, really, I'm wondering right now, is there more coming, right? And that's basically what we're going to be talking about, all right? The next one's going to be FFAI, and this is setting up pretty nicely. A lot to like down here on the lower indicators. And really, as I zoom out, I mean, we are living in just red, especially this channel right here. Red, 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 nothing, nothing, green, green, red, red, nothing, nothing, green, green, red, red. You get the picture, right? So, it seems like that's where we're coming next. The question is going to be, can we break that and go liking the lower indicators down here? I don't know if I saw something about earnings on this one or a different stock that I was watching. Damn, I look at so many tickers. I'm not sure. Let me know if you see anything about earnings. I'm mainly bringing it up because it looks like the last one that this thing is calling out was around May. So we should be due here, all right? And then that was number one. That was number two. The last one is BLSH. So a lot of people are talking about this one right here. The stock itself is named bullish. I don't know if it's getting cut off by my view or not, right? But one more time, BLSH. The name is literally bullish, right? So I'm not necessarily liking a lot of what I'm seeing here, but I think with a name like that, this is probably going to be one that we should at least look at, all right? But there's not a lot of information, but I'm going to do my best to give you the most educated thoughts on this one. And, you know, I always say it, there's pros and cons to a brand new IPO. There isn't a lot of info, and man, that also means there isn't a lot to break in terms of resistances, and there isn't a lot to catch you if you're falling. There's not that many supports, right? So that's kind of the story on this one, all right? And then just to wind it out, let's take a look at starting at the S&P 500. Look, all I see us is continue to go up, all right? I know that's not a big candle right there, but that's actually a, oops, I was looking at the wrong place. I thought it was a 1.2%. Yeah, it's a relatively normal candle in terms of percent and thing, but I'm still seeing us go up. I'm still seeing lower indicators doing okay. As we look at NASDAQ right here, not the best, not the worst, is I think what I would say. And then DJ30, let's take a quick look. Interesting, Doji actually lost a good amount and then came up. Obviously, a lot of this was because of the PPI numbers. I'll be real honest with you. I don't know much about PPI. I mean, we talked about it a little bit. You know, I don't really understand PPI much. And from there, we go into what I love about this place is no one's here to act smarter than they really are, right? Like giving simple explanations about what it is. But CPI is the consumer side, PPI is the producer side. And it looks like, based on the numbers that came out today, it's costing companies more to make things, right? I think some interpretation of that is they're eating the tariffs right now, is what I saw a couple people saying. Look, eventually the consumer is going to eat it, right? And as a regular guy myself, right? Like, I feel like I'm eating it already, right? Things are already going up. So to think that it might even go up a little bit more and that the PPI is showing that companies are actually holding back a little bit, I think that's an interesting thing to just, you know, sometimes the realities and the data sometimes just doesn't equate, right? But I think the nicest thing to see is that the S&P 500 at least is holding right there, right? So overall index is all right. The PPI number, like I said, I don't really know much about it. It seems like people didn't necessarily like it, but you know, I don't think there's any crazy alarm bells going, all right? If you have more educated thoughts on either what the PPI numbers today meant, what your thoughts on them, etc., yo, please throw them in the comments. You have no idea how many people read them. Again, we're just sharing thoughts, right? But you might be helping out, and I'll tell you, I'll read it myself, and you'll probably be helping me as well, all right? So cool. Before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So, look, open is one we've been hunting, all right? And, you know, I'm probably going to do this again before I finish, but this is part of the dork stocks. Wow, I thought there was a third word there. All right, so the D is DNUT for Krispy Kreme. All right, keep this one in your back pocket. If it could get over 370, let's call it, that could be really interesting right there. All right, the O in dork is open. That is the one we're going to be looking at. All right. The R is Rocket, and actually Rocket has been doing pretty nicely. It went bounce right there, came up all the way up to this resistance right here. This one's actually been doing pretty nicely. And then the K is KSS, and this is another one I have my eyes on because, again, you can see it. It looks like it's setting up well. So overall, it actually kind of looks like these dork stocks, DORK, are actually doing pretty well, all right? We're specifically talking about open because, again, there's a lot to like, all right? Let's start with the candle itself. Look, the high of the day, if you're looking in the box over there, was $3.06. We closed 1 penny below that, right? Look at how small that wick is right there. That is a good, big, strong candle right there. Yes, I see it going down a little bit after hours. I really don't care, all right? And honestly, if you pop like 26% during the day, you would tank like an easy 10-12% after hours, right? So this very much is holding most of the gains, and I do love that right there, right? The other thing that I have to call out, I said it in the opening thoughts, and we're going to take a couple minutes here, right? It is crazy to me that we gap down after earnings and all of a sudden we're actually up here, all right? You know, I'm not here to say technical analysis is a crystal ball. I'm not here saying the rules I have are set in stone are going to happen all the time. We set expectations and we go from there, right? My expectation on every single stock, big stock, small stock, blue chip, penny stock, if you gap down on earnings, I sincerely believe you're going to drop for the next 3 months until the next earnings calls come. And then, you know, we get the new info and we go from there. So the fact that we gap down, we fall below the 8 and the 20, right? The next line down would have been all that is a green to a scary red. We should have fallen to 135, all right? Instead, we don't confirm. We're right back over doji confirm, right? So I guess I would like one more candle. I would, right? But that's a good candle. Those two dojis, you can argue, are bouncing on the 8 and the 20, but that's that. Like I said, I like the fact that we're back over the earnings. I obviously like the fact that we broke one of my resistance lines that I drew. Just give us a little bit more. And I think this 330 line might even be a little more. It's not going to be a wildly big percentage, but yeah, get me over this resistance, and all of a sudden I'll actually start thinking about 480 up there, right? So I'm gonna say one more thing. Up, I zoomed too much. You can't really see it, but it looks like. Sorry, I'm saying the word. So they are exactly on each other. I'm going to go back to the box over there. You can see the average 50 is at $1.36. The average 200 is at the exact same place. So tomorrow, this will golden cross. The 50 is going to golden cross the 200. A lot of people like that and use that as a more longer term signal right there. You know, I'm not a long term dude, right? But yeah, look, I like this view right here as well because, hey, maybe 480 is a little bit high next target. The 200 moving average is basically sitting at 4. So I think for now we're going to use 3 330 and 4. Those are our, well, we're at 3 right now. So the next two lines are 330 and 4. You can hold 480 as your third line behind it, but don't assume $4 is going to be easy to break, all right? We have never been over the 200 weekly average since the inception of it, right? So I can see us trying to get close to it, but hey, MACD is positive. RSI is definitely a little high at 78, and we're still at least living here at the good volume spot. So I didn't talk about the lower indicators on the daily, but kind of the same good words, right? Green over red on both the MACD and the RSI. MACD never fell into the negative and looks like it's ready to go back up. RSI is at a very, very healthy 57. And what I love is this is a nice break of that white line. We were expecting 217 million. We basically got 50% more than that, right? Kind of loose math, but we were expecting 2 million something. We got 3 million something, right? So that's a nice. I'm gonna zoom in real quick. I know it doesn't look like normally I like a break where it's something like this, right? The line's down here and it's up there, let alone one of these. But I like that. I do. Just give me one more and we'll be happy right there, right? So overall, I think I still like this 276 line right here, right? Really 50% is a little bit lower, closer to 260. So maybe we can use 260 as our next support down. And then obviously it's I don't want to use the word game over, but I would hate this thing to go below 230. Let's use 230 right there, right? I feel like I could raise this line a little bit maybe. Give me a sec. Yeah, I wouldn't mind raising that. What's 50% of you right there? That's 213. Let me come back to where we're at. I like that actually because that's almost perfect 50% right there. Look, again, risk reward tolerances, right? Personally, I'd like to never lose 230. For some people, you could use 213 as that oh no no line. If you lose 213, I'm expecting that 130, 140 range that I mentioned a little bit earlier, all right? One more time, the rest of the dork stocks actually do look pretty good, specifically KSS next, right? I like this little takeoff. I like the lower indicators down here. Rockets definitely made a good move, but so far it's saying it knows how to bounce on the 8 moving average pretty well. So maybe we'll come back down to the 18s and then hopefully retest that 19. And then DNUT is the first one, right? That's a good candle today. Under more moving averages than the other ones, but yeah, you get me over, like I said, that 380, 370, right? Yeah, let's call it 380. I think there'd be a lot to like on this one as well. All right, so let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Next one we want to come into is FFAI, and this is one we've caught a couple times. All right, we rode that pretty nicely. You break all 5 moving averages and you fly, fly, fly. We nicely were able to catch that first run, right? All of a sudden we come back to reality. I will say this, that's a scary candle. That's arguably a confirmation. I'm real surprised we didn't come down there. I think that's a real easy thing to say. But where are we right now? We're actually 3 candles over the 8 and the 20. I really like today's because look, I'm going to delete this line. But look at we are over the biggest candle to the left right now, right? So I do like that candle today. It does have me thinking that 430. Hey, real quick, if you can subscribe and share, it does wonders with the algorithms, all right? This is a nice weekly chart as well, all right? It's still a little early. We've got 2 days left, but just like I said on the daily, we are over the biggest candle to the left on the weekly. Now, you could say it's this one for sure. I think this one's a little bit further away, and I'm willing to say this is a pretty good view right here because even on this weekly view, this is a whole lot of months, right? So I'm still willing to call this one the biggest candle to the left if we can break it. Obviously, there's a lot to love if we can get over this one, right? On the weekly, it's kind of saying, hey, maybe this 340 line's a little high. Maybe we can lower it to 320. I'm going to come to the daily real quick. No, I like our line. I could see, oops, I didn't mean to move it. I could see why. I could see that right there. Yeah, that's the 220, but no, I'm going to keep it. That's also 50% candle almost, is it not? I like this line a little bit more. Oh, wow, we're moving this one down here, and I'm supposed to be moving the one down there. Hilarious, wasting time. I apologize. No, no, no. This is a good line. You want me to move it to here? No, I like our line. Sorry about wasting the time on that one. So again, like I said, this is nice, right? We have basically made up that red, red, red into this green, green, green. Let's see if we can come take out the resistance. MACD and RSI both green over red. Very healthy 51. Volume's getting there, right? Volume's getting there. And again, when you have a big, big outlier of what is this, 100 million plus, right? And you were basically living down here, the white line's going to come up a little bit. It didn't do it too drastically, which is pretty solid, I would say. But yeah, just give me a little bit of volume. I would even say if you can get to like this, get me 27 million shares in the day, 27 million shares in a 7-hour day. If we can get roughly 4 million shares an hour, if we're at 8 million shares by that second hour of trading, FFAI should have a really nice day, actually. All right. Um, Again, I said it earlier. I'm gonna end it here. I think I saw something that said earnings was maybe even as early as next week. I look at a bunch of stocks, so I'm sorry if I'm thinking of another one, but you can see earnings was, I'm not sure which one of these two is right, but let's just say it's this one, was basically in May, right? So 1, 2, 3 months has passed since then. We should be due for an earnings here, all right? So you know me, I'm very, very 50-50 on earnings. I can't stress that enough, but yeah, there's at least good technicals here, and I'd love to ride this at least until earnings and then see what happens after that. All right, so let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. BLSH, a stock name bullish, is a very, very interesting stock. All right, and you have to start thinking silly, silly things when you see something like that. All right. Um, One thing I saw a lot of people talk about was $35 share buys on bullish. All right. When I look at this chart, and I was looking at it on a different one, the stock itself actually opens at 90. All right. So to me, I got to look at this. I did ask the Discord team, hey, what did that mean? Da, 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 da. Okay, I see a lot of people talking that they bought around 35. It looks like some places will let you pre-register, but it doesn't seem like it'll be that many shares. I'm curious if anyone else knows about that, if you actually were able to buy at 35, how many shares you got. But again, I'm looking at the candles that I have in front of me, all right? So as you look at the daily chart, there's not a lot I can really do. All right. I'm not a fan of drawing things on red candles, so I'm not even going to really draw 50% of that thing. All right. And then today is obviously a doji itself, right? So that alone screams 50-50. And look at the doji, right? There were moments where it flew. It wasn't as big a drop, but there was a kind of scary drop. And I'll show you that on some lower indicators shortly. But we have absolutely no MACD, absolutely RSI, and at least 2 days of volume. All right. So what needs to happen is you got to go into some shorter time frames. And look, even on the 15-minute chart, all we really have are two moving averages, but at least we have MACD and RSI. If you come into the 1 minute, all of a sudden you have all five moving averages, you have MACD, you have RSI, you have an established 50-day line, right? So make sure you know what you're doing as you're jumping between these time frames, but that's what you kind of have to do is move around to see what you can see and decide from there. All right. So on the daily, there's nothing. What am I going to talk about? Not that much, right? On the hourly, the one thing this thing is at least saying is you got to get over 75, right? If you look in the box over there, the average 8 is just a couple cents over 75, okay? When you go into the 15-minute chart, this thing is actually kind of saying the same thing. We're seeing them tighten up, tighten up. They use the word wedge. If you're a pattern trader, I'm really not, right? But we have a downward wedge. I think people say that means it's going to break up. I really don't know. I'm not a wedge guy. But hey, that's not a bad green over red MACD. RSI is kind of trying right there, right? It is a negative MACD. But really, I think the easy thing to call out is that's kind of the best. Maybe let's look at this first. What's your 50%? Okay, I think at the bare minimum, this has to get over 76. I would at least like to get over this candle right here because that's going to get me nicely over the 8 and the 20 right there. I think arguably you can wait for basically 77 because 77 is a nicer, it's almost exactly to the penny, 50% of this candle, and it'll get you over these two candles right there. I'm going to draw that line. I'm going to draw the 77 right there. It's a couple cents over, but whatever. And that's where I basically see red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 nothing, nothing, right? I would like to break out of that and into the nothing, nothing, green, green, green it up, right? So personally, I would say the first line is going to be 77, and then that next line is probably going to be 82. I think that's almost word for word what I said today, BLSH, on the Discord. All right, I see it getting a lot of love. Below 77 is bad. And if I had to guess, I was probably looking at the 15-minute chart because you can see where that 77 came from. And obviously, I said that a lot earlier in the day, right? We got a lot more information after it. And it did look like it was correct. Nothing good was going to happen under that 77, right? From there, break over 80 is where the money is sitting, right? It is. And look at that. My boy right there talking about open, which we just discussed in the beginning, right? But I think I would change that to maybe 82. I'm not exactly sure where I was looking at 80. It was probably a different time frame, whatever. Maybe I was even just looking in my personal, the 1 and the 2, right? I'm not even really sure. But those are the lines I would draw. And again, look, these two lines right here have absolutely nothing to do with that single daily red candle, right? And really, there's not a lot I can do on this doji right now, right? So, if I was to at least, okay, that'll be the last educated thing we do. Cannot lose 74. And look, 74 is below our doji candle today, so I think that's a solid line right there. If this goes below 74, my line is actually at 74.02, right? So if this goes below 74, I would be real worried. I think I would like, what's that, 77 to 82? It's not quite 10%. You're adding 3, you're adding 5 of the 7, right? But yeah, I think that was pretty good right there on bullish. Look, I'm going to end it with this. I sincerely believe there's going to be some silly meme stuff that happens on this, all right? I don't know if it's going to happen in 20 days after we get the 8 and the 20 and we can do some stuff on the daily. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow because we're going to start breaking some of these lines, right? But a stock named Bullish, that's gonna get some volume. It's hard to think anything other than that, right? We're here being patient. We're here using the technicals we can. We will attack accordingly when the conditions are right. All right. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so much.